Welcome, everyone, to the fourth annual Mark Monitor New York Summit. Appreciate everybody coming. Before we get started, I just want to go through really quickly a couple of housekeeping items. There is Wi-Fi in the conference room. There's little signs there, back there by the door. The password is just the word meetings, all lowercase. So if you need Wi-Fi, you'll get that there. There are plugs on your desks, your tables here. Unfortunately, I think they're having an issue connecting any power to them, but it will happen by lunchtime, I'm told. So if you're running low on your battery on your phone, don't worry. We're going to get those outlets working for everybody. And obviously, there's restrooms and refreshments in the back as well. Before we sort of dive right in, I obviously wanted to thank all of you for joining us here today. We definitely have a action-packed agenda. We have a lot to talk about, from massive changes in the world of domain names and whois, to emerging threats in the digital piracy space, social engineering, fake news, constant data breaches, which I might add typically stem from a social engineering attack. Cryptocurrencies, there's a lot going on in the online space. And, actively protecting your brand and what we refer to as your well-intentioned consumer has never been more critical to the long-term success of your organization. So much of what we do today in our lives, both personal and professional, happens within the cloud. And it gets, frankly, more difficult and more sophisticated for brands to keep up. So considering how challenging it is for us, imagine how difficult it is for your well-intentioned consumer. And, that's primarily because even the most well-intentioned really are no match for a fake.
He may have moved them.
What's behind this door?
What door?
What is this place?
It's a remote diagnostic facility. Ford and his partner used them when the park was in beta. I had no idea this one was here. The cottage must have been built on top of it.
But this equipment.
This is newer. Slower than our machines back at the Mesa, but we'll render a host in a few days.
So Ford's been making his own hosts out here and telling no one.
What's the matter?
Have you seen these? What is this, Bernard?
Doesn't look like anything to me.
They cannot see the things that will hurt them. I've spared them that. Their lives are blissful. In a way, their existence is purer than ours, freed of the burden of self-doubt.
I don't understand.
You're a fucking monster.
Am I? You were the one who would so blithely destroy all of them. Even him, I suppose. After everything you have shared.
What the hell are you talking about?
feels that way. Did you tell him to...
The intimacies were your idea, if you will recall. I think Bernard was glad of the company.
I'm not one. I can't be. My wife. My son. They're real. I was a father. My poor boy.
That's enough, Bernard. Mustn't get yourself worked up.
So, not sure everybody's seen the show. That was an episode from last season of Westworld. And, you know, Bernard in that show is an extremely sophisticated, very realistic, and utterly indistinguishable from an actual person. He's a fake. Much like the online abusers that we're battling every day, they're after the well-meaning and the well-intentioned. And our situation today is not unlike Westworld, a virtual universe where consumers' ability to differentiate the real from the fake is no longer possible. So, how do you protect the loyal from the imposters? How do you protect your well-intentioned customers and ensure they don't fall prey to fakers and abusers? And if trust is nothing more than a commodity, where does that leave your revenue? 86% of consumers believe that businesses should be doing more to protect them from buying fake goods online. Your customers want to have trust in us. They want us to protect them, and that is clear. This statistic actually came from a Mark Monitor online barometer report that we did around Christmas of 2017. It was a holiday shopping edition. And I should also mention that we actually do publish a barometer report several times per year. You've all got copies of our latest edition in your to-go bags or swag bags. And for this month's edition that we've done, we actually commissioned a sample of 924 brand owners that we surveyed from 9 countries around the world, including the UK, US, of course, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Sweden, and Denmark. Half of marketing decision makers report that online brand protection is underrated within their organization. And we recognize that this stat represents an area of opportunity for technology providers like Mark Monitor to help you within this space. And with all we know about our landscape and abusers getting more and more sophisticated, how is it possible that only 64% of companies even have a strategy in place? One reason for this may be, and one reason for a lack of focus at senior levels is the fact that many brands are representing the business problem internally in a way that is not resonating with some of their leadership teams. And helping you transparently measure your problem, frame it, and demonstrate what you're doing about it is something we're very focused on doing with all of you. And we'll talk about this in more in-depth ways throughout the day. The truth about protecting your enterprise online may actually surprise you a little bit. One of the themes that we've been talking about quite a bit over the last couple of years is that volume doesn't necessarily equal success when it comes to online brand protection. And at least in my opinion, it's really not about more enforcement and more activity for activity's sake. It's about knowing exactly where your well-intentioned consumer interacts with your brand and ensuring that the experience they have is a positive and healthy experience. And from our perspective, that's not happening, in the bowels of the internet or page 25 of Amazon. Your consumers just aren't interacting with you there on a very frequent basis. Several years ago, a company called Cumulus Media started publishing kind of this neat chart. It's been redone and reused in a variety of different ways, but I like it a lot, and we used it at our original summit meeting and brought it back, what happens in an internet minute. And I thought this year we'd take a quick look at a comparison of 2016 versus 2017. Every 60 seconds in 2017, 900,000 people log into Facebook. That's up about 23% over 2016. 3.5 million people searched Google every minute last year, up from 2.4 million in 2016. And even with the rising popularity of streaming music and Spotify, Apple iTunes platform saw massive growth. 51,000 downloads per minute soared to 342,000 app downloads per minute as well. It's about an 85% increase. And 1.8 million snap images are shared per minute, up 71% year over year. That's pretty unbelievable growth. As I mentioned earlier, the barometer that we released this month, in this recent edition, we looked at, again, over 900 different brand owners and talked to them in depth about their concerns, their business, their strategies. And the research was conducted at the end of last year and into this year, and no surprise, almost 100% of Americans with internet access have actually made an online purchase. 67% of millennials and 56% of Gen Xers prefer to shop online rather than stores. And almost a third of online shoppers have been duped into buying a counterfeit product. So 1 out of every 3 people, as far as we can tell, have actually been victims and been fooled unintentionally. So where are they going? And how are they interacting with you, and where are they interacting with you? Because that really needs to be, at least from our opinion, really the focus of our brand protection strategy. 85% of consumers view fewer than 5 pages of marketplace results when conducting a search. So it's really important that your program, and when you're monitoring some of these platforms, your program is intelligent enough to actually focus on these particular areas and content that's actually being served up and indexed to the consumer. Otherwise, what you wind up is with a program that has a lot of volume and a lot of activity, but not a lot of results. Almost 92% of consumers stop on page 1 of a search engine. So you go past page 1 and it just falls off a cliff. So again, our intention of sort of looking at these kinds of statistics and understanding them is not so we can stop ourselves from going sort of deep into the internet. We still go very deep into the internet. But when you have finite resources and you have a program in place with a set budget and a certain amount of hours and people available, we think we should focus the majority of our efforts and resources on the tip of the iceberg. It just makes good sense to do that. 87% of brand owners feel that social platforms should do more to help them. I don't think that's a big surprise. 15% of the organizations surveyed do not have a budget at all for brand protection whatsoever. 21% will invest the greatest amount of their budget in new brand protection technologies. I think there's a strong desire in the market to try to look at these problems more creatively and create solutions to them that have more finite conclusions. Again, activity is just not enough anymore. So we've been really focused on these themes for the last several years. And one area in particular that we're very focused on are things like statistical probability. Since our platform knows where the content is, we can measure the specific areas your well-intentioned consumer actually visits and looks for you. Knowing the actual probability of finding a counterfeit, or for that matter, a trademark infringement or a copyright infringement. Then being able to actually treat and measure that is real, and the consumer experience will improve, and perception internally and externally will improve. We think that's probably as important as anything. If I search a platform in, say, China or Brazil from my office in San Francisco, I will not see the same content that a local consumer in that market sees. Shockingly, a lot of solutions and things in the space do not provide a localized capability to actually see the same content that your consumer sees. So when you're sitting in your office here in New York and someone tells you, a platform in China is riddled with counterfeits, you're just not going to see the same content when you go to your browser and you type it in and you do that same search. By using an extensive network of proxies globally, we're literally recreating the consumer experience. And so when I want to see what's in a local market, our system will actually replicate that consumer search with a local IP address, ensuring we can see what that local consumer sees. And we really feel like this is a critical component to monitoring the internet today. Here's another image of that from a website perspective. So not only harvesting data locally and finding websites locally, but then also understanding, probably even more importantly, how are those websites actually indexed and presented to a consumer in that market via a search engine, right? That's the primary way people are going to find your brand in Brazil. If I'm in Brazil and I type in Johnson & Johnson, what am I going to see? That is the dynamic we want to be focused on and change. And we can go deeper and chase the long tail, but we're going to get diminishing returns by doing that. We really want to change the consumer experience and make it as difficult as possible for the bad guys to succeed and for our well-intentioned customers to find bad content. So just a couple takeaways. Brand protection programs that do not explicitly focus on well-intentioned consumers are very difficult to measure in the short term and frankly impossible, in our view, long term. Gain internal buy-in, whether that's budget, executive level support, whatever it might be, by measuring success and reporting transparently with objective metrics that everyone understands. We have to make this simple for people to understand, and that will help us gain more support. For instance, a statistical quantity of unauthorized IP on the most visible listings and websites. And again, volume, in our view, does not equal success. I mean, to put it bluntly, and I wrote this one sentence, that's a myth propagated by vendors with a lack of ability to replicate the true consumer experience. Please don't make the mistake of fixating on this. Volume is important. These problems are big. There's no doubt about it. But that's not going to win the game for us. So before I kind of go through the agenda really quickly and then have our first panel come on up, we're addicted to Slido. We love Slido. I'm not sure how much you guys love it, but you could go to slido.com, you put in NYC Summit, and that'll enable you to participate in the actual live polling that we're going to do. It is fun to kind of see everybody's thoughts, so if you wouldn't mind doing it, we'd really appreciate it. So I'll give everybody kind of a minute to do that. And then I'll also mention as well that there is a survey that's going to be in your swag bag, and the folks in the back will have copies of that as well. We really appreciate you guys filling them out at some point today and handing them in to us. This year, every survey that we get back, we're going to hand you a gift card to a coffee shop. And you can get a free coffee on us. And again, we appreciate your willingness and participation to do that. So I'll go through the agenda while you guys get Slido, or get comfortable with it, I should say. So we're going to start with a really cool panel that has moderated by Staten Hammock, who's our Vice President of Policy and Business Development here at MarkMonitor. And he is going to be on a panel with Jeremy Wilson from ACAP, Kevin Weaver from Johnson & Johnson, and Bill Ross from Homeland Security Investigations. Then we're going to have a great session moderated by Charlie Abrahams with Steve Estrada from WeWork and Lauren Denise Midland from WWE. Thank you, Lauren, for your help. We'll do a quick break, And then we will come back and talk about the state of the domain industry with Sarah Langstone from VeriSign and Allison Simpson, who is the product marketing manager for MarkMonitor's domain management suite of services. We will do identifying different channels of counterfeits with Andy Forsyth from Nissan. I know many of you know Andy. He is a great MarkMonitor partner and often will participate in these events. And he's got some really cool stories and techniques to share with everybody. And then there's a session I know that everybody is very interested in. We're going to have a chat with Staten again about the GDPR, who is, and that whole debacle. And he'll give us his insight. His team has been very focused on attending meetings, talking to officials involved in the process, talking to registries and understanding how they're going to adapt to this within the domain space, how it may impact, for instance, your brand protection efforts. It's really hard to go pursue a website that's infringing on you when there is no who is data available. And that is a reality that we have to figure out together as a community. I think MarkMonitor, frankly, is well ahead of the curve in terms of understanding these issues and preparing for this imminent change. Then we'll have a quick lunch, and then we go to breakout sessions. And this is a common sort of format that we like to use because we realize that there's a multitude of different people in the room with different objectives and goals in mind. And so we'll have a variety of breakout sessions in the afternoon. We'll do a brand protection breakout called Fair to Launch with Zach Wolf of MarkMonitor and Ben Wellman. And they're going to talk about go-to-market strategies in the brand protection space. We'll do a domain management breakout, securing your domain portfolio with Ryan White of DigiCert. And then we're going to have, again, more breakouts, a fireside chat. Are fraudsters always a step ahead? With Patrick Flattery of Verizon, moderated by Aquino Chicada from MarkMonitor. And then a chat with Greg Savage. I've known Greg forever, almost 15 years. He is absolutely a domain management expert. He's going to talk about optimizing your portfolio. A fireside chat, how Facebook helps brands fight infringement with Sabrina Perlman of Facebook and moderated by Nancy. The growing threats from cyber squatters and how to defeat them with Doug Eisenberg, which I have to let you all know that we often will do surveys after we'd have these events and ask people, well, what was the session you liked the most? What would you like to see next year? And I want you to know that Doug is consistently the highest rated session that we provide. So he's a rock star, and we obviously had to bring him back. And then we're going to close out the day with Bob Marchese, the president of IACC. He'll have a chat again with Nancy Merritt talking about effective solutions to evolving trends in online counterfeiting. And then we'll have some cocktails. And again, hopefully, feel free to keep the session interactive, ask questions if you'd like to, and we appreciate everybody's participation. So now we've got just a couple Slido questions, and then I will exit the stage, and we'll get the first panel up here. Real easy one. Where are you based? A lot of folks from New Jersey. Not a surprise. I think New Jersey, Connecticut, DC, Pennsylvania, other. So not a surprise. Looks like about a third of you are from locally here from New York, my hometown. Lots of others. Even a couple people from Massachusetts. So thanks for coming again. We appreciate it. We know many of you travel significant distances to be here. What brings you to the New York Summit today? I'm hoping to learn more about brand protection issues. I'm hoping to learn more about best practices in domain management. That's a good one. I'm hoping to learn more about trademark protection best practices, anti-piracy. I just want some free lunch. So it looks like the majority of folks in the room really are here to talk about brand protection issues. And again, we appreciate everybody's participation. We're hopeful we'll cover all of these topics today, and everybody will walk away, I think, with some new knowledge and new information.